So today we're gonna head off to a place I find really fascinating. It's called the Green Mountain. I don't know if it's a place that everybody calls it the Green Mountain, or is it just me? What's fascinating about it is that the whole south side of this mountain, hilltop, whatever over there, is all green. It's like a sage colored green. And I don't know what it is, the rocks. So we're gonna go and ride up that way. I'm gonna take a little bit of samples of some of the stuff, and we're gonna go later on meet with my friend Jeff, who's a professor of geology at New Mexico State. We'll talk to him about it at the Green Mountain and see what he can tell us about it. We're gonna go up to the Flintstones and we'll check out the Flintstones. There's some pretty cool rocks up there. And then we'll ride the roller coaster, which will take us up towards the Green Mountain. So we'll get that area taken care of. See if it's pretty interesting up there. And have a good time riding our bikes. Part now, it's called the Flintstones. You can see right behind me here some large boulders, very similar area to the cathedral as you get these large boulders, and you could actually see the cathedral back here. These large boulders, I guess that's why they call them the Flintstones. They're still pretty cool area. If you take the trail that's just down this way, you actually get to ride in through some of those boulders. And yeah, I've crashed once or twice going down there. So if you remember last time I was going to the cathedral, I sprained my ankle. So far it's doing pretty good on this ride. I'm not feeling too much pain. My foot's still sore. Not sure if it's broken. Anyways, I digress. We're here at the Flintstones. So we're about halfway through the ride. On the back side of these hills over here, we'll begin the area called the roller coaster. Beginning, there's an awesome drop, really rocky, awesome drop, and then you have these leads basically fast and right into the Green Mountain area. And we'll hit that next. So this is the Green Mountain. You can see here behind me all this green rock. It's pretty amazing. So I'm gonna grab some samples and take them to my buddy Jeff. Maybe he can shed some light about what's going on with the Green Mountain area. Every time I ride here, I'm just amazed. This is great. I feel like I'm riding on another planet. It's just very cool. I don't know how to explain it. All the pebbles here, they look like gravel almost, with some large rocks in between. I don't know if you can see all this stuff. Look at all this green area, and it'd be very cool. I'm really amazed by it. I don't know how to say it more than that. So maybe Jeff can shed some light. So let's grab some of these samples, see what Jeff thinks about this. That should do it. That's enough. So we're here with my friend Jeff, and he's a professor of geology at New Mexico State University. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going pretty well.
Good. So up in mountain biking, I went to this area up in the Dona Ana, as we call the Green Mountain, and I collected some samples. And see, there's some samples I want you to take a look at and see if you can tell me what this is.
So based on the location that you sent me, I was able to look it up on Google Earth and compare it to the geologic maps. And it turns out that this is one of the rhyolite tuffs that was erupted during the main phase of volcanism at the Dona Ana Mountains. This occurred at about 36 million years ago, and it also is about the same age as a lot of the volcanic rocks in the Organ Mountains. So it's thought that these two eruptive centers are related. This is known as the Mogollon-Datil volcanic field. And the reason it's green is because of alteration that comes from magmatic fluids that are hydrothermally altering the existing rocks. So it's really distinctive. It shows up very nicely on Google Earth, as you can see, and the rocks are certainly green, but probably initially they were a much lighter color, more of a white tuff, and we still see numerous examples of that. And if you look at it in more detail, like under a microscope, you can see little bits of other crystals. Most of the green stuff is just ash that's been welded together as a result of the high temperatures. And then occasionally you get bits of pumice or pieces of other rocks that were in the area and got erupted out with that, that same event.
So you were saying green, so there's the green, is that pretty common sort of event to happen where it does turn and you'll see this green area in other parts?
I think that, you know, green volcanic rocks are pretty common. It's not something we're actively looking out for.
I ran into a rider the other day when I grabbed the samples, and he thought it was copper. And I guess it's based because it's similar light colored as I guess oxidized copper would be.
Sure, yeah. It is true that copper-bearing minerals will give us a green color in the samples, but probably not in this particular case. There's a lot of other green minerals that are out there. And in this case, I think it's more common that it's one of these other alteration minerals rather than something that's copper related.
Great. So you have a microscope, you said we can take a look at this stuff in?
Yeah.
All right, that's great. Let's take a look.
If we wanted to try to get an age on this specific rock, we would look for minerals such as sanidine, which is a potassium-bearing mineral, and the potassium will decay to argon, and we can measure the ratio of argon to potassium and determine the actual age of this specific sample.
Great.
For samples that don't have sanidine, we can look for other minerals such as zircon. That's a uranium-bearing mineral, and that uranium decays to lead, and we can analyze those ratios and determine the age of the rock that way as well. So basically, all through the Organ Mountains, the Dona Ana Mountains, and the Picacho Peak area, there's all these volcanic eruptions going on about the same time, and it's more or less around 36 million years ago. Overall green color of the samples, which you can see in the, just from the map and from holding it in your hand, is some kind of alteration. So if you go to Google Earth, you can see this area shows up very nicely as a big green splotch on the side of this hill. And if you kind of zoom around and look at it from the side, you can see that there's these different layers, right? This lower layer is more reddish. Then this green layer comes through in here, and then there's probably a brownish layer on the top. The key thing to note, though, is that this isolated hill used to be connected to the main part of the Dona Anas. Imagine that this layer was connected to this layer and this layer. It's just that these parts in between got eroded away. So this is a geologic map of the Dona Ana Mountains. The main guy who mapped this was a guy named Bill Seeger.
So when we're looking so we call that Green Mountain, where all that comes from. Where on the map is that?
So the stuff that we're just looking at is this patch right here. Okay, so it's called TDR. This is a welded tuff as part of the Dona Ana rhyolite. If you look, where else do we see TDR? Well, you have a bunch of it up that makes up the entire part of Dona Ana Peak. You go up to the top of Dona Ana Peak, the very top is actually something else. It's this TMP, which is a monzonite porphyry. It's actually an intrusive rock. So instead of the lava, or instead of the magma erupting onto the surface, it came up through fractures and then solidified without getting erupted. The weird thing about this is that it's green, but for geologists, that usually means that something else happened to it that is going to make it harder for us to actually understand what the original formation was like.
Thank you very much for meeting with me today and kind of seeing this stuff. I was pretty much riding out in those Dona Anas for like 6 years, and to me I was just always fascinated when I get to this, because it's, you know, it's a pretty expansive area and the trails go right through it, and just everything just turned green. I was like, man, I must be like on another planet. This is so, it's nothing I've ever seen before or come across, that it was amazing to ride.
One of the things that it shows us is how interesting the local geology is. You know, if you were living in Kansas or something, you wouldn't have the same type of variety of geology that we have here. And so I definitely encourage anybody that's interested, that's still in college, that's watching this, to take geology classes and have a better appreciation for what we have around here, which is a pretty amazing geologic events.
All right. Thank you very much.